The most famous episodes of Nagata were the final ones. When the students reached 4th grade, at the end everyone had to pass the final exams. And while these exams were for us the first true challenge, much harder than any of the tests or written exams we had during the previous years from the various subjects, it was not everything all about the final exams in the 4th grade. In fact, they may have been overshadowed by something that was perhaps less of educational importance, but possibly the single most important event of a student's life. It was called the ending celebration. Typically, this was a social event with parents and teachers celebrating our last months in school. It was the last happy thing we could have before ominous exam. So for the last time you could have some fun, confess to your girl, or just watch how everyone looks all niced up for the occasion. Nagata's story climaxed at the ending celebration. Many of the protagonists' stories got resolved. Many of the protagonists dared to make their moves, dared to decide on what they really wanted. It was truly one of the greatest school series, because it showed almost all the stereotypes, all the little things accompanying a student's life, that everyone just had to find their own way of loving the TV show. Personally, at the time I saw it for the first time, I was not really happy with the way Hiromi ended up, and the series final disappointed me a little. And now, I watched the final 3 episodes with so much intensity. It was as if I watched it for the first time. It was because I never paid attention to the grown-up or teacher storylines of this series. And I didn't remember how that ended, since I never watched Nagata again. And so I once again glued to the TV every Sunday evening. One might say history was repeating itself, but of course it wasn't. There was a certain melancholy in the way the teachers organized the ending celebration. This was organized by the homeroom teacher, the teacher who is responsible for a class throughout the 4 years. And so while the class is being taught many subjects by other teachers, the homeroom teacher has the responsibility. The story of Nagata saw of course a young teacher be in exactly the same situation, the class being her first homeroom class to graduate, the first class she was organizing the ending celebration for. I was almost moved to tears. All of a sudden, the goodbye was so sad. She was going to stay, while there were always new people who had all their lives in front of them. I couldn't see how that could pass by a person without all these feelings. And so, while watching the Nagata version of the ending celebration, I recalled ours. It was just like any other, I guess. It took place in a really big place our class reserved. Of course, it wasn't as big as the Banks Park thing, and it was also smaller than the place where the first years had their welcome evenings. But nevertheless, the place was spacious. We prepared a kind of entertainment program for our parents and teachers. After the program, there would be a late dinner, and then we would dance until tomorrow. No, really, we are going to be there until the next day. And the parents were supposed to leave right after the dinner, so we could have the place for ourselves. It was our ending celebration after all. There would be some music as well, so we would dance. And the ones who were too tired would just talk. The usual. What do I remember from it? There was in fact hardly anything memorable. At that time I didn't care. And for me it wasn't even important. But it was nice. The program everyone took part in was a series of parties of our teachers combined with anything fun you could think of. A small lottery and 1 or 2 things to remember the past 4 years. I wasn't organizing anything, I just helped with all the carrying and setting up. Everyone had their part and mine wasn't as unimportant as it seemed. Naturally, there were 1 or 2 speeches. Our homeroom teacher had a short one. The principal also came for an hour to tell us his message, and then Akari held a speech on behalf of our class. I was almost laughing, it was really corny. It was all about how when we first came we were classmates, but now we are friends, and then the obligatory statements of how much we have learned for our journey of life. Horrible. Sure, I understood the meaning of the ending celebration. It was to celebrate the end of being a child and a welcome to being adult. But to think it would be so embarrassing to listen to all those words. I don't think Akar even knew what she was talking about. Perhaps the principal, but his speech also showed that he says all the same words and phrases to all the classes all the time. Our homeroom teacher? Well, perhaps. She was the only one not having any nose to read from. I like that. At least some honesty. But once the parents left after the dinner, it was nothing official. No blabber about being grown up. And so very quickly the mood was much better. Of the few people that stayed and were not from our class was Hidemi, Jan's older sister. We met her 1 or 2 times and she was in a thinking mood. During the evening and the night I danced with all our girls, but most of all I remember dancing with Hidemi. She was a nice girl, I thought, and we became friends later on. Hidemi was very unfortunate with all her love affairs and sometimes I felt sorry for her. From time to time we would get together with Jan and her and just go see a movie, the 3 of us. I have no idea how that began, but it was a nice thing to do when you just wanted to see some old friends. Back to our ending celebration. I couldn't stay awake the whole night. Hidemi was actually there to take Jan home by car sometime after 2 in the morning, but then Jan wanted to stay until the morning and so at 3 Hidemi took me, Kumi and Sanji in her car and drove us home. Most other people stayed until the morning and went home by bus or called their parents. Therefore I found it kind of sad that the teachers in Nagata were stressing the importance of the ending celebration. The students didn't really care, I think, as most of them don't care. Of course it's normal and I had to find out the hard way that the longer away the day will be, the more one see its importance. Although as for me, I never needed any complicated sentences in speeches to know that it was something special, and I think all of my friends, in the end, had only nice memories of that day. But our ending celebration would still be more than a year away. Sure, Nagata brought us some more expectation and everyone really looked forward to the day. I myself didn't know. It was still too far away. Or was it? A year? What will be in a year? I hardly could imagine. Was I going to be able to at least not ruin my chances with Yon? You are still going with that, really? And when the day will come of our ending celebration, would Ione come? Almost certainly not. She wasn't teaching us anything and wasn't going to teach us in the 4th grade. Still, I couldn't dream about it, couldn't I? Would she perhaps consider me a grown-up after the ending celebration? Could I hope for something more after I finished the school? These were my thoughts. I thought about holding on for 1 more year, to wait for Ione. But what was I thinking? Would anything change? I was really fighting the obvious answer. No. On Wednesday after the discussion we were already packing our things, when Ione told us she'd see us in 2 weeks then. What? 2 weeks? Why? The others also wondered. Guess we didn't know yet, said Ione, and she explained that the school organized a school trip to the Surake castle. Everyone cheered. I didn't know whether I had a specific plan in mind, or just wanted to be different in front of Ione, but in the general happy chatter as everyone was leaving the classroom, I stated that a trip to Surake also means we will have no philosophy. I said in a slimy voice, like I wanted to look a model student in front of the teacher. Some people laughed and so did Ione. But I know that you could take those words in more than one way. And Ione did. She had a playful nature deep inside, as I noticed when she answered or countered some of her students' comments. And this was a situation just like that. Now, I didn't know she would respond. But I still did it. Because something just might happen. There was no other way of getting closer to her. And it did happen. Ione made a face that showed she knew I was making fun and held a book in her hand. Perhaps I wanted to read through pages 50-60 and tell everyone on the next lesson if I miss philosophy so much, she said, smiling. The few people still in the classroom had a good laugh. Yeah, the joke was on me. I didn't expect anything else. In fact, I created the situation so that the joke would be on me. But the real thinking would be up to Yone. Silently, I acidly smiled at my teacher, but with the kind of smile that accepts a challenge. And without any words, I took the book and went out of the classroom. Then it hit me. What have I done? I have not asked her. I just took the book. But then, she didn't call me after she needs it. She didn't call after me that she needs it. But then maybe she was so surprised? Or maybe I got her confused? The thoughts in my head were chasing one another. But you are finally doing something. Oh, that's surprising. I have gone too far with this. I knew it. Either she'll chase me down right now and tell me off, or I will get in the next lesson. What if she needs that book? Surely she has many more classes and uses this book, and she won't have it. But nothing happened. I didn't see Yone that day, and neither on the next day. Should I go to her office and ask her whether it was okay to keep that book for 2 weeks? Or was it already too late? Of course it was. If I had doubts, I should have asked her on the spot. Now I will just look like an indecisive young boy. No way. I was going to learn from the book and keep the promise. Yone must know I can take responsibility. Heh. This is going to be great, because maybe she will like me more. I'll be someone who cares about the subject she teaches, but also someone who can hold his own. I was happy. She shouldn't have provoked me. That's what she will get. And that was good. I thought it was really a good opportunity, all else aside, to show Yone I can keep up with her, and that I'm not just another student who wants to show off in front of the classroom. But she had to know that, because when I accepted the book, there was hardly anyone left in the classroom. There were just too little people to impress. Should perhaps think about this and then come to the conclusion that I meant it, that I was going to miss that Wednesday lesson. And maybe that could even give her a small hint that I liked her. The day of our trip to Srake Castle I remembered very well, because we were going by bus. In our bus, there was also this 3D with us. Meaning, Miori. Then move your ass now, right now! That's a chance! She was seated in the back of the bus, and it was that time when I realized my heartbeat wasn't going crazy, and that I wasn't always trying to glance at the back of the bus to see what Miori was doing. The whole trip me and Mori were talking. I guess this was really the day I realized it. Gradually Miori was fading away, without me admitting even for a second that might be true. But this trip was a clear proof. Because you are not doing anything, you idiot! The castle was just like any other in the country, and we made several groups which then took tours of the castle. At 2 we had a break. I was talking with Mori about this. About Miori. Normally I wouldn't, but now that Miori seemed to be less and less important to me, I had no problem telling him. Mori was the first one to suggest the obvious, that time was the reason. I didn't do anything. And that's why it all went away. It was my fault. Because it was. I mean, he at least gave the letter to Kotone. She rejected him. But I felt it was good, because now he knows. He cleared it and could move on. And I was being haunted by Miori all this time for nothing. I was a little angry at myself. The problem was, what was I supposed to do? Go and tell her! Right now! Don't hesitate! Go! It was already too late. No, it wasn't! Go! I couldn't just go to her and tell her I liked her. Yes, you could do that! I should have done that during the dance classes, when I really liked her. But I was too passive. Then go now! I let it go. Then go! Maybe I was so happy with the fact that I even dared to ask Miori to dance that I felt that was enough. Anyway, I looked at it. Miori was gone and it was my fault. I want to punch him in the face for those words, seriously. But at that time, I didn't feel any regrets. Yeah, right, I can see how you don't feel any regrets. And now, after the Redux, what was I thinking would happen? I know I was being foolish to think that once I'm back here, I will fall in love with Miori once again. You did! Sure, it was so exciting at first. I felt the same rush as before, but it went away quickly. Maybe it was even made stronger because of the whole situation I was in. And in all honesty, now that I look at it, comparing it to what I felt for Akane, Hikaru, and now for Yone, that couldn't compare. Idiot. On our way back, I sat in the back with Nami, Kumi and Mori. We had a nice talk, mostly me and Nami, but others around us were also listening and talking with us. I was watching Miori, who was sitting one row in front of us and probably heard us talking. Normally I would try to be smart, try to show off in a good way, try to impress the girl I liked. But now it was a relaxed discussion. I did not need Miori to listen. The situation really suited me well. I had a conversation with girls, but from the way I was speaking it had to be clear I was out of their reach. You can have that kind of balanced way of talking that everyone knows, they don't have to try. I wanted to achieve this. I didn't want any girls to think they had a chance with me, because they didn't. The next Wednesday, Yone came in smiling and obviously expecting something. And I didn't fail her. I kept my word and presented the whole new material by myself. I studied the whole weekend for it, and it was worth it. I did it to keep my word, because I gave it to Yone. It was the more important to me. Yone thanked me and suggested that I could do this any other time. Again. This made all the others laugh, and she thanked me once more. I gave her back the book. And then, the lesson went on. I would be lying to tell I wasn't dreaming about what could happen. At first I had real doubts as to whether I did the right thing, but I quickly realized that wasn't going to help me. A good presentation was only my answer, my only possible solution. I had to be great. And I was. I shook off all the embarrassment, all the fear of a boy, and kept my word as a man. Yone, she was fair enough to accept this. In a way, by doing my best, I was also apologizing for taking the book from her without warning, and at the same time showing Yone I was responsible enough to know what I was getting into when I took it. There were so many things I wanted to prove to Yone by this. As usual, however, there was no noticeable response from my teacher. I would surely not do such a stunt again, because although it seemed to work out well in the end, I still wasn't sure whether she wasn't angry at me. I would have liked to apologize, but that was inappropriate and wouldn't do any good anyway. Besides, she started it, so there's also some responsibility on her side as well. We couldn't apologize to each other for this kind of thing. Those were consequences of actions we took. I knew it, and I knew so did Yone.